beyond the noise of busy towns and crowded markets. There was a quiet village surrounded by rolling green hills and dense forests that stretched farther than the eye could see. Tall oak and cedar trees stood proudly beside a gentle river that flowed through the land like a shining ribbon of silver. In the early mornings, soft mist floated above the water, and the songs of birds echoed through the trees as the sun slowly warmed the earth. In this peaceful village lived a humble woodcutter named Rogov. Rogov was not a wealthy man. His small wooden cottage stood at the edge of the village near the forest path. The roof was made of old clay tiles, and the walls were weathered from many years of rain and wind. Inside lived Rogov, his loving wife, and their 2 young children. They owned very little: a small table, a few clay pots, and some worn blankets. But despite their simple life, the family was happy. Rogov believed in something very strongly. Honest work brings honest rewards. Every morning before the sun rose above the hills, Rogov would wake up quietly. While the rest of the village still slept, he would prepare for another long day of work. His wife would hand him a small piece of bread and a flask of water, and with a gentle smile he would step outside carrying his most valuable possession, his old iron axe. The axe was simple and worn. The wooden handle was smooth from years of use, and the metal blade had been sharpened countless times. It was not beautiful or expensive, but it was everything Rogov needed to earn a living. With steady footsteps, he would walk along the forest path as the sky slowly brightened. The morning air smelled fresh and cool, and dew sparkled on the grass like tiny diamonds. When he reached the forest, Rogov began his work. He never cut healthy trees. Instead, he gathered fallen branches and old wood from the forest floor. Swing by swing, he chopped the heavy logs into smaller pieces. The sound of his axe echoed gently through the trees. The work was slow and tiring, but Rogov never complained. Hour after hour, he worked beneath the warm sunlight, wiping sweat from his forehead and stacking bundles of firewood. In the evening, he would carry the wood back to the village and sell it in the market for just enough money to feed his family. This was his life, day after day, and he was grateful for it. The accident one afternoon, after many hours of chopping wood, Rogov walked toward the river that flowed through the forest. The water was clear and peaceful, reflecting the blue sky above. He found a thick branch near the riverbank and raised his axe to cut it. With one strong swing, he struck the wood. But something unexpected happened. His hands, tired from hours of work, lost their grip on the handle. The axe slipped from his fingers, spinning through the air before falling into the river with a loud splash. For a moment, Rogov stood frozen in shock. Then he rushed toward the water. He looked down into the river desperately, trying to see the axe beneath the surface. But the river was deep and dark. The current moved slowly, carrying leaves and small twigs downstream. His axe was gone. Rogov's heart sank. Without his axe, he could not chop wood. Without chopping wood, he could not earn money. And without money, he could not provide food for his family. The thought filled him with worry. Slowly, he sat down beside the riverbank and covered his face with his hands. For the first time in many years, the hard-working woodcutter began to cry. The forest spirit appears as Rogov sat beside the water. Something strange began to happen. The surface of the river shimmered softly, as if the sunlight beneath the water had begun to glow. Gentle ripples spread across the river, even though the wind had stopped blowing. Then suddenly, the water parted. From the center of the river rose a magnificent spirit, a guardian of the forest and its waters. The spirit shone with a soft silver light, and their voice was calm and wise, like the whispering wind through the trees. The spirit looked at the woodcutter kindly and asked, "Why do you sit here crying, good woodcutter?" Rogov was surprised but respectful. He bowed his head and explained what had happened. "My axe slipped from my hands and fell into the river," he said sadly. "It is the only tool I own. Without it, I cannot work, and my family will suffer." The spirit listened carefully. Then, without another word, the spirit slowly disappeared beneath the water. Moments later, the spirit rose again, holding a magnificent golden axe. The axe glittered brightly in the sunlight, its blade shining like pure treasure. The spirit asked, "Is this your axe?" Rogov looked at the golden axe in amazement. He had never seen anything so beautiful. But after a moment, he shook his head. "No," he said honestly, "that is not my axe. Mine was a simple iron one." The spirit smiled gently. Then the spirit disappeared into the river again. Soon the spirit returned, this time holding a silver axe, polished and elegant. "Is this your axe?" the spirit asked again. Rogov examined it carefully, but once again he shook his head. "No, kind spirit. That is not mine either." The spirit nodded approvingly and dove beneath the water one last time. When the spirit returned, they held a plain iron axe, worn and familiar. Rogov's face immediately brightened. "Yes, that is my axe," he exclaimed happily. The reward for honesty, the forest spirit was very pleased. "You are an honest man," the spirit said warmly. "You could have taken the golden axe or the silver one, but you chose to speak the truth." Then the spirit placed all three axes, the golden, the silver, and the iron, into Rogov's hands. "Because of your honesty," the spirit continued, "I give you all of them as a reward." Rogov was overwhelmed with gratitude. He bowed deeply and thanked the spirit again and again before returning home. When he reached the village, his family and neighbors were amazed by what had happened. The story quickly spread through the village. Everyone praised Rogov for his honesty. The greedy woodcutter, but not everyone was inspired by the story. Another woodcutter in the village heard about the golden axe and began to feel greedy. "If honesty brings such rewards," he thought, "then I will trick the spirit and become rich." The next day, he walked to the same river and pretended to chop wood. Then he deliberately threw his axe into the water and began shouting loudly, "Oh no, my axe, my poor axe." Soon the water shimmered again, and the forest spirit appeared. "Why are you crying?" the spirit asked. "My axe fell into the river," the greedy woodcutter said dramatically. The spirit dove into the water and returned with the golden axe. "Is this your axe?" The greedy man's eyes widened with excitement. Yes, that is mine," he lied quickly. But the spirit's face grew serious. "You are not honest," the spirit said firmly. "You tried to deceive me." With that, the spirit disappeared beneath the water, taking the golden axe away. And because of his greed, the dishonest woodcutter also lost his own axe forever. The moral: from that day forward, the villagers remembered two important lessons. Raghav continued his life as a hardworking and honest man, respected by everyone. And the greedy woodcutter learned that lies and greed bring only loss. Because honesty, even when it seems difficult, is always the path that leads to true reward. Moral of the story: honesty brings reward, but greed and lies lead to loss.